Hi, we're going to go through how to create Marc Chagall tunnel books. And the first thing you're going to do is get 5 to 6 sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper. They can be regular copy paper. And you're going to need pencils and Sharpies and colored pencils and scissors and a glue stick. Okay, so let's do the folding first. You're going to need 2 accordion folds. And what you're going to do is you're going to turn your paper sideways or landscape, horizontal, and then you're going to fold it in half. Make sure you line up your edges, and then you're going to start from the center and fold out edge to edge. So you folded it in the center, and then you're going to take the outer edge and fold it towards the center again. This is going to ensure that all of the folds are equal. And you're going to take the opposite edge and fold it into the center again, and then do the same thing. Outer edge to the center, make sure you're lined up. And you're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Line it up towards the center. And this just makes sure that every single fold is the same width. It's an easy way to do it. Okay, fold it in half again. And then what you're going to do is unfold it and refold it accordion style, which is back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You want it to be an M fold when you're done. And what that looks like is like a letter M over and over again, like you can see. Do that with 2 sheets of paper so that when you're done, you're going to have 2 accordion style folded sheets of paper. All right. So next what we're going to do is the background. Now you guys will have a planning sheet that you're going to use, and you want to look at that planning sheet. You should have done some thumbnails because what you're doing is you're going to recreate your hometown or where you grew up. You're also going to need 2 frames to create your tunnel book, and you can just fold 2 pieces of paper together, measure about 1.5 inches from each edge, and then 1.5 inches on the top. You guys might want to measure and draw that out. I'm kind of done this for a while, so I'm pretty good at it, but I think it's a good idea to measure that first. So now I have all of my layers, and I'm looking at my thumbnail, and I grew up in the Midwest in kind of a farming country. So I'm drawing these rolling hills with lots of green and lots of sky. And I'm going to use watercolor pencils. Now this is optional. You do not need to use watercolor pencils. You can use regular colored pencils. But if you do use watercolor pencils, make sure you create a palette with a separate piece of paper that's pretty thick, like cardboard or cardstock. Add water to make paint and apply it to your paper very lightly, especially if you're using copy paper. It's very thin paper, so you can't apply a lot of water to this, okay? Now, if you're one of the younger students that are doing this, I highly recommend just using colored pencil for this. I think it's easier to control. If you're an older student and you've had some experience doing some watercolor, it sure is faster to do the watercolor pencil or watercolor. You just have to be really careful not to apply too much water. Okay, so I'm doing mine with watercolor pencil for the background. Every other element that I create for this assignment, I will be using regular colored pencils, okay? So I'm going to move this up to the side and let it dry. And then I'm going to start on drawing my houses. Now, again, I grew up in the country, and I kind of had like a 60s style modern house. And so I drew houses similar to what I saw in my neighborhood, okay? The color choices that I choose are going to be more in terms of the emotions that I feel, just like Chagall did. Draw a rough draft of your person who's floating, or you can draw it in pencil and then trace it with ink. I drew a rough draft and then I traced over it for my person. And then you're just going to color, and you want to make sure that you're coloring that with intention, that you have an idea of why you're coloring in that color. And I'm using pink because it's going to be against that green background, and I think it's really going to pop. And that, by the way, looks like my sister she has red hair. So now I'm just coloring the buildings, And I had a pretty good, happy childhood, and so my buildings are pretty cheerful, using bright colors similar to Chagall. Okay, I have a worksheet included in the packet that you can use to help with the assembly. It's going to take you step by step how to create the tunnel book, and I'm also going to show you right now in this video. So what you're going to do is you're going to start by using a scrap piece of paper underneath so you don't get glue on your desk, but start with the back fold, okay? And put glue all along that fold, that edge. And then you're going to put the background on top of the last fold. So all of the rest of your accordion fold is going to be on top. So this is the very back. And you want to make sure and line up the edges and take your time on the background especially. Well, on all of the pieces actually. And they're going to do that on both sides. And now you have your background done, okay? So the next thing to do is to start assembling your midground and your foreground. And on mine, I think I had originally planned to have the girl flying in the foreground and the houses in the midground, but I switched it up at the end because I didn't like the way it was assembling together, and you can do that as well. So what you're going to do is you're just going to attach these to the back side of one of the frames, and I applied the glue to the actual back side of my frame, and so that's actually going to be my foreground, which I thought was going to be my midground. And I'm going to line these up and just check on the placement. So think about your composition where you don't want to have one thing directly in front of another, right? You want to have it so that you can kind of see all the different parts. And so I'm going to place my girl right over the top of the shorter house. And this time I'm going to put the glue on her and then stick it to the frame. And you can do that either way, okay? And try to be neat with your glue. Craftsmanship counts. Then this is where I kind of put it together and I decide I'm going to switch it up. So originally I had my houses in the midground and I had my girl in the foreground. But I didn't like the way she was kind of standing out too far, and I changed my mind and decided to have her in the midground. So let's look and see. So here I stand it up, and do this dry first, guys. Put this together dry before you do any glue, and just check it and make sure you like it. Make sure you like the way it lays, and if you don't, switch it up like I did. So my girl's gonna go in the middle, and I'm putting her on the second fold up. You can kind of adjust which layer you want to put it on as well. And I'm gonna just apply glue to both sides, the left and the right of my frame, not the whole thing, just the two left and right sides, not the top and bottom. And you're gonna stick it into your accordion folds, and this is in the center fold of my accordion book. And make sure it's lined up, and then you're going to put your foreground on and apply glue in the same areas on the edges. And then you get to put it on the front. I love these books. These are so much fun. I think they look so pretty when they're done. Love the light coming through the back. And there we have it. That is our Chagall tunnel book. I hope you guys have fun with this. This is Sabrina from A Space to Create Art.